Good evening and a very warm welcome to the Black Hole. Today we are going to discuss UK's recently held election that resulted in Labour's surprise landslide, Conservatives' historic defeat, and Scottish National Party's record low, as well as new far-right Reform Party gaining 4 seats and 4 million votes, reshaping the political landscape. Moreover, we will explore Labour's winning factors, priorities, and opposition parties' responses. We are very grateful to have Dr. Arif Azad with us. He's sitting on my right. He's a renowned political analyst and commentator with more than 20 years of experience in British and European Union politics. He's a long-time Labour Party member and expert in democracy, elections and political communications. आज के सेशन की मेज़बानी और निज़ामत की जिम्मेदारी निभाएंगे एहसानुल-हक साहब. He's sitting on my left. He's a development professional and political philosophy enthusiast. He's passionate about promoting sustainable growth and democratic governance in fragile states. कुछ ही दिन पहले हमने भारतीय इलेक्शन के ऊपर हमारे मुबसरीन का तबसरा और तज्जिया जो है वो यहाँ से हमने नशर किया था. आज हम बरतानवी इलेक्शन के ऊपर बात कर रहे हैं क्योंकि जो स्टेट्स हैं वो एक दूसरे के साथ ज़्यादा इंटीग्रेटेड होती हैं. आपको दूसरे रियासतों के बारे में भी ज़ाहिर है कि आगाही होनी चाहिए. आप सब लोगों की आमद का बहुत शुक्रिया और इस मौजू पे दिलचस्पी लेने का शुक्रिया. प्लीज़ डू अस अ फेवर एंड टर्न योर सेल फोन्स टू साइलेंट मोड सो दैट देयर इज़ नो डिस्ट्रैक्शन. आप भी ज़रूर इस गुफ्तगू में शरीक होइएगा व्हेन द हाउस इज़ ओपन फॉर Q&A एंड ओपन डिस्कशन. Just raise your hand first so that this microphone is given to you. And that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Arif Azad and Ehsan-ul-Haq. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nayar, for introducing this session. I think this year is very important because many elections are being held in different regions. We started with Pakistan, and then we had elections in US, in Britain, in France, and Iran, South Africa, India, and lately we will be having election in USA as well. So coming to the questions and this session, particularly Arif Saab's interest in the British politics, I would like to begin at the outset that why this time the British elections became so significant.
I think, yes, you can offer a number of reasons why they became important. One, reason was because Rishi Sunak called these elections, earlier than, the usual. So it was, snap election, he could have held it, after 6 months and others. I think the second reason was after, 14 years of Tory rule, there was very widespread expectations of a change. And when, in snap elections, was announced, so there was, expectation of a turnaround and a change. Although I will just give you some, stat to put the context to what we are going to say afterwards. This election, Labour won by a very huge majority. They gained 412 seats. House of Commons have 650 seats. And 412 seats mean that Labour gained 211 seats at a turnout of 33%. Vote of share of 33%. Although turnout was about 59%. Conservative, they slumped to 121. One of their lowest ever score, and they lost 252 seats, and their national share of vote was 23%. Liberal Democrats, they won 72 seats, a gain of 61, and their vote share was in 12%. Then far right party, they gained 5 seats. I mean, this was newly formed party. It was formed 2 weeks before the election date, but they got about 12% of vote. So their number of seat does not correlate with what they got, but that has triggered a big debate in British media and also among political scientists as to whether this winner takes all in passport system is good. We will discuss it later on. Green Party, yes, a new kid on the block. They increased their seats from 2 to 4. SNP was the biggest loser, Scottish Nationalist Party, and they lost 39 seats. So this is the broad context. Now the reason Labour won, if you look at the polling results, yes, from 2 years previously to the elections, you will find there was a pattern consistent where Labour was enjoying about 20 percentage point leads in the polls. And yes, during this election, that lead held throughout the period up to the polling day. And this is very unusual because 20 percentage point or 14 to 20 percentage point to hold this lead for about 1 to 2 years is considerable feat. So you can draw one conclusions from this, that most of the people had decided deep down they want to get rid of conservative government, and they want to see the back of the conservative, and they want change. And to coincide with this mood, Labour Party leader, Keir Starmer, he said he has, changed the party. This is, and we will push for a change and for a new order and others. That went. I think the other reason was that, party, dropped all its, radical pretensions, and it kind of became, the party of, establishment or the capital, because this, 2017 and 2019 Labour Party manifestos under Tony Blair were quite, radical. And this you can see in the Labour manifesto this time round, that they said they would put up no taxes, and they will put up no insurance contributions. And their, spending plans, basically constituted 0.02% of, the GDP. So the whole crisis in, the British states about, degraded public services or others. And when Keir Starmer was asked about this, he always said that we will see growth, but without any, formula where the growth will come from, particularly when, Britain has delinked itself from Europe. So these were the factors. There was a, change of, the, widespread, popular expectations for change, and also people voted very, tactically. Well, that is the reason, Liberal Democrats got 61%, 61 more seats. Although if you look at their, share of vote, that is almost, in 2000 and, in 19, when they had about, 10 seats on a similar share of vote. But this time round, they got, 72 seats. So this means people voted, very tactically as well. So people were, determined to get rid of the Conservative Party. And I think what, contributed to the victory of the Labour Party was implosion of the Tory Party, particularly what they did over the, 14 years. and in particular during the last 5 years. Yes, I mean, during the COVID, there, class arrogance was, staggering. Yes, and particularly Boris Johnson, while, the people lived under, COVID, restrictions, they were having parties and that came out, afterwards, which angered people to a large extent. Then they changed their leaders, 3-4 times. And one prime minister lasted only, 49 days. And this, particularly was very, very, dispiriting for a large section of the population, that when, public services are down, cost of living crisis, and when the Tory imposed austerity over the last, 14 years, had almost hollowed out NHS, National Health Service. In, British elections, National Health Service is the key issue. That how to fund it, how to maintain it, and how to make sure that, and this has remained, pretty much like constant. I think the other issue in this election was also housing, which we will, return to.
Yes, thank you very much for explaining this, that why these elections are significant. But what do you think which were the determining factors which actually put the Labour into this victory, and particularly the more or less the expectations are not that they would go for this landslide victory. So what were the factors behind this which actually determined their victory?
I have explained, Tory implosion, 14 years of austerity, yes, class arrogance of the Tories, and also the wider, determination of the public to see the. Now I will just take it is, landslide, but it is loveless, landslide, and I will explain why is it so. It is a mandate, but a mandate which has no, wider basis. It is, huge majority, but it's not. And I think the reasons are this. In this elections, Labour share of vote has been very low. Just, 1% from, 2019 elections up. And if you look at the popularity of, in some of the candidate, even the new prime minister got only, 17,000 votes from his, constituency. So you can't say it is huge, personal popular mandate for the prime minister. And also the third factor, if you look at the figures of the winning margin of the Labour candidates, average vote on the basis of which they won, they ranged from 16,000 to 24,000. While previously every Labour candidate would mostly get 40,000 vote. And I think one of the reasons could be this, that yes, maybe, Reform Party, jumped into the fray, and they divided the vote. But, what I'm saying is that, vote share is very low, so it is not a huge mandate. Yes, personal popularity of the leader is not that, great. And also the winning margins are not. This also means there are huge expectations for the new government to deliver on change which they have, promised to the people. But that is, a big if, because if you look at their, manifesto, yes, the ambitions are not huge, as I earlier said. Yes, new spending plans are not there. There is no new money, no taxes, and no others. So this begs the question that, whether Labour will be able to deliver on its changes. But if you look at the last 5-6 days, he has come out with the, flurry of eye-catching, initiative. We will build 1.5 million houses. We will relax planning laws and, things around that. But there is no word on it. And NHS, which is a key issue, which needs about, 39 billion of injections every year. And I think the big question is where the money will come from and whether Labour will be able to deliver or not.
Now you have used the word money. So how much money is important in the election? As we have seen that only rich can contest election in Pakistan. And then there is a lot of corporate financing and backing of different groups. So how it is different in UK?
Yes, UK, I think money, is not a barrier for fighting the election. It's if your party, nominates you, you can, contest and win on the basis of your party support, because party, pours in money, and there are also, spending limits as well. Because what happens as soon as election is announced, local parties, they engage, professional organizers in each constituency, and they organize everything. But however, yes, why Labour won was, one reason was that they got more money from big business this time than the Conservatives, because Labour got 19.5 million in donations, and Conservative got 4.5 million. And as a result, Labour spend on social media was huge. They actually outran Conservative Party in spending. So this means that corporate world is quite happy with the Labour, and they have normalized themselves to business and other interests. But at a local level, any ordinary person whom party nominates, money is not a barrier at all. So even poor ordinary person whom party, and they win elections. So it is one of the system where money doesn't count at very constituency level. At upper level, yes, they get donation and they spend on social media at other. But at local level, you don't have to be rich, yes, to contest election at all.
Okay, great. Now coming to the election campaigns. Cicero, when the great orator of Rome, when he was contesting election in 64 CE, his brother wrote it sort of brief guiding principles, and three comes to mind, and they seem very quite contemporary as well. He said that promise everything to everyone, and be surrounded by your passionate supporters and the public, and keep reminding your voters and public about the sex scandals of your opponent. So how we see this in happening there, because we are used to hear a lot of things happen during the election campaigns. So how the campaign agendas are set there, and what is the role of different groups in campaigns and election campaigns particularly, and how parties do this in Britain?
Yes, campaign as usual, it is yes, at party level, it is very sophisticated. Yes, and for example, the New Labour under Tony Blair, they copied lot of techniques from American elections in particular. Yes, and Philip Gould, went there, the New Labour guy, and he learned a lot, and in a way they imported very sophisticated campaigning tricks into the British election campaign. But I think at ground level, it is just door knocking, old stuff. Yes, going through the list, getting the vote out. What you call the ground game. So that's where happens everywhere. So, yes, in campaign is, pretty much you just, go out, you have a list of the voters. Okay, you knock the door, you ask about their intentions. Okay, which party they are voting, and, which candidate and how they are going to vote this time. Um, then also, phoning them, follow them up. Then, social media, is becoming more, influential. But also the party policies are important. Yes, policy, platform is important, party is important. And that's how, elections are won a lot. I think, personalities don't matter. Um, but in America, it is more, personality based. Even you look at, presidents, they look like kings or the monarchs and others. But, British Prime Minister is a pretty, executive, type. And yes, you can change them, in midway. And, the system runs. But in America, it is a big thing. Look at, Biden's health issues. It is all over. Yes, if he gets sick, the whole, yes, the universe will, fall upon you. So, these are the issues. And in a way, yes, British campaigning style is, low key. Yes, very careful. Yes, sex scandals are, yes, taken care of, before the elections at a big level. So if a politician or a, cabinet minister has something in his, some, skeleton in his, closet, he or she makes sure that they are, cleared before the date of the elections, and they just get into, yes, get such issues out of the way, and, focus on the campaigns entirely. So,
Uh, Election campaign and then election, we are used to having here debates around the role of election commission in Pakistan particularly. So what is the role, whether such institute exists in British, or how these are regulated in?
yes, there is, yes, electoral commission, but it doesn't have much of, presence apart from, it gets reports of, spending, and it also, frames rules and others. But election is organized at a very local level by election, by, local council. And every local council has like, registration officer. So the work of, the registration office is to compile, voter list. Yes, send out the letters to every home. And if there are, like new occupants or others, they need to, register with local council. And actually, local council is the center of election activity, because all election results are announced in your local town hall. So how important is, local democracy and others. And electoral commission, it doesn't figure that much unless you lodge complaint with them, and they, like, investigate, the cases of overspending or any other issues related with it. But it is very, institutionalized at a local level. And local council has a, big role in its organizations and other issues.
At how institution building is actually happening over there, and how we can learn from these local councils, and particularly how local democracy and local setup, they are important. You talked about door to door campaign, and you have been a close friend of Jeremy Corbyn, and we could see you knocking the doors with him. So comment your comment on the overall politics of Jeremy, and how he was able to win despite being contested by the Labour as well.
Yeah. Yes, Jeremy is, yes, socialist. His, politics is radical. I mean, he hasn't called himself, in Marxist as compared to John MacDonald, but he's internationalist in his outlook. He's, grassroots activists. And I mean, the reason I have been involved in his, leadership campaigns earlier on from 2015, so I had the opportunity to study him a bit up close. And also, so he is, yes, I mean, from the left of the party. And when he became leader in 2015, so he was an accidental candidate in a way. Because the campaign group within the Labour Party, they had exhausted all the candidates. And I mean, when the meeting happened, they asked, Jeremy, it's your turn. So he, reluctantly accepted this role. And I mean, he had no hope of, being on the ballot. But in the last minute, he, gathered, signatures of, 36 or 37 MPs. And I mean, they put him on the, ballot only, with the view to like encouraging like a left voice, in the election. But they had no idea that, Jeremy Corbyn had, such a wide base and, in such a appeal, and which they have, regretted to this day. So under him, Labour Party, membership, grew to 500,000. Labour Party became, one of the largest, social democratic party. And particularly youth, flocked to the party, and they, energized, and his platform was, radical. Which involved like, waiver of, tuition fees, nationalization of some industries, just change in, British foreign policy. Earlier on, he was opposed to, nuclear, deterrent building in. But all these, 2017, manifesto was one of the most popular, manifesto in, British history. But it was the most, radical one. And on the basis of 2017, the manifesto, he got the highest share of like vote for, the Labour Party, about in 40%, which was the highest after Labour's, win, since 1945. But being radical and, getting more membership and, being anti-establishment has its cost. So right wing of the party got very active, and they did everything in the book. Not to just let him, run the party, properly. And so he was, expelled from the party. And before this elections, he tried until the last minute to be nominated by the Labour Party, but the Labour Party didn't want to do anything with him, and they parachuted external candidate into his constituency. And local party was given no choice in the way, though he had a big sport base in the local party. Because the way it works in the UK is this, that your constituency Labour Party like selects an MP. And so I think the constituency was not given the choice, so he had no choice but to stand as an independent. And then because he has been MP for the last 40 years, there was a big chance in my own estimation that he would win. And he did win in the end with huge margin. And that is because Jeremy has been community organizer. He's internationalist. He has been part of social movements for 40 years, and he's a very assiduous constituency MP. Yes, he's happy with the crowds, walking streets, allowing people to take selfie with him. And I mean, after the Labour Party's leadership profile, he has become a very notable figure. I campaigned with him on the streets, and people just mobbed him, from school students to shop owners to, yes, I mean, everybody you can imagine. And I think, yes, the reason he won, because he is grassroots activist. Like every weekend, I mean, he would get about 1,000 volunteers. People came from like all parts of the country to help out with the campaign. And at every weekend, about 40,000 doors were knocked. And he was disabled by the fact that he had no data. But I think in the space of 3-4 weeks, they were able to do the door knocking, gathering data, yes, getting the vote out. And it was huge, massive, grassroots operation. And plus is, personal popularity, plus is policy platform, which, basically like ceasefire in Gaza, one. Yes, two-child, benefit policy. And this policy is that if you have more than, 2 children in your family, the benefit, the child benefit you will get will be only, yes, for 2. So this is a big issue. Plus, like rents in his, constituencies are huge. So he was asking for rent controls, and also National Health Service, because his opponent was one of the person who made money out of, privatization of NHS. And this issue was made much of during the campaign. So I think, and the most of all, he's very popular with young, particularly university students. And this, university students organized, yes, they formed an organizations which went to, different constituencies. And they supported all left-wing, candidates, also like Gaza linked, candidates. So he has shown, despite the money, thrown against him and all the resources, yes, he won hand down.
So how do you see his role now as MP? Coming to the latter question, that why so many independents have won also.
I think his role, remains as always, as a politician who is, suffused with, moral idealism. Who believes in, community power, who, believes in people power, and who believes in, policies which, benefit ordinary people. And above all, on international affairs, he's very internationalist, anti-imperialist, anti-colonial. He has been at the forefront of every cause. Yes, every international cause. Just name it, from, Kurdish to Palestinian, and, everywhere. And he is also very active on, yes, in Kashmiri cause as well.
So, Jeremy Corbyn won as an independent candidate.
Yeah.
And there were so many independent candidates this time. So what were the factors behind this?
Yes, independent candidates won mostly on the platform of Palestinian issue and Israeli, bombing of, continued bombing of Gaza. I think the scale of their win is a bit more. I'll tell you, went along to many, conferences, and, the one I, went to, it, assembled, polling firms as well, plus academics working on, elections. And I think 2-3 weeks before the poll, they were, predicting, similar figures for Labour. They will get over 400 seats, and Conservative will get between 60 to 200, different polling organizations. And I asked them the question that, your calculation doesn't factor into your prediction, the Gaza or the Palestinian issues. And they said, look, yes, it is important issues, but we expect 1 to 2 seats or others. But I think ultimately it turned out to be about 6 seats. So, and these are the areas where there is Muslim populations, and most of the candidates are of Pakistani origin. So they won seats from Birmingham, from Dewsbury, yes, from Blackburn, and the heavily Muslim, populated. And actually they came very close to unseating Labour candidate in Slough, and one candidate in Ilford East also came very close to unseating this health secretary. But it was purely Palestine linked vote.
So you talked about the Muslim and other, particularly Pakistani community, and then there are other Muslims as well, and then there are other ethnic minorities as well. So what was the role they played during these elections, and how significant it was?
This election is very, significant from the viewpoint of ethnic minorities. In this parliament, they have 90 seats, which roughly corresponds to the population of ethnic minorities in England. 12-13%. Of these 90s, 50 are women. Yes, 14 are of in Pakistani origin. Yes, mostly Indian origin, and some blacks as well. So this has the highest representation in terms of ethnic minorities, the highest ever. So it is a big gain for ethnic minorities in terms of their weightage in English in British politics. So, but Labour has the highest number of ethnic minority candidates, about 66.
Okay.
And Conservatives have about 14, and the Lib Dems have 4 or 5.
Okay. So now coming to when elections are concluded, so the real question is about transfer of power. So how this happens in British particularly, how it is different, and what are the nuances which you would like to?
It is pretty forward, straight affairs. When the elections end, the outgoing Prime Minister makes concession speech in his constituency, goes straight to 10 Downing Street, and where he makes his final statement. From there he drives to see the king, and he submits his resignations. Yes, the king then constitutionally, although he knows who has won the election, but he asks Mr. Prime Minister, who do you think I should invite to form the government? And what would be your advice? Yes, just imagine Pakistan. What happened. So just he leaves the kings, and within next hour yes, the winning party, candidates and, the future prime minister goes to see the king. And so king invites him, formally to form the government. So the power vacuum is only for 1 hour, because power doesn't like vacuum. And in Pakistan you have seen, government formed after 2 months and others things are happening. And so it is very smooth, yes, and frictionless, and a very quick affair.
So, what is the makeup of the parliament when it is constituted and
Yes.
elections are held and
Yes,
everything?
this parliament is very interesting, by the way, because out of 650 members, 335 members are new, and the youngest members is only 22 years of age. He's the baby of the house. So this has a lot of implications, and by the women, by women constitute 40% of the house now, 60% men, and this is going to have obviously implications for the future politics. But I think the most important thing is what is going to happen within the party. So Conservative Party has more new members. Almost half of their membership is new, and these are the people who have no memories of Thatcher, or left-wing Tories like Ken Clarke, or and Boris Johnson did everything to expel, one nation Tories, left-wing Tories who were pro-European, and so he expelled them. So I think the new lot within Conservative Party is going to be, yes, more far right, more anti-European or others, and they have to look over shoulders, because in Reform Party is breathing down their neck. So I think the Conservative Party will go in the far right direction, yes, in order just to fend off Reform Party. And it is no longer the party of this old Toryism, where two tendency, one nation Tory, or different form of conservatism. Because under David Cameron, he pushed this notion compassionate conservatism. And Theresa May used to say we are toxic party, and others. So it would be interesting to see what happens in the but things are not good for Labour either, as I said, for the reasons, although they have huge seats, but their mandate is slim. And if they don't deliver on 6% of swings, Conservative Party can get back in power. So they will have to be absolutely on their guard if they want to maintain power or other. Yeah. And for that to happen, they will have to deliver on radical agenda, not just. And I think Keir Starmer knows this, because if you look at the King's speech, he's saying we will give workers' right. Okay, we will nationalize parts of railway, housing, and others. And so let's see. But it is it's not going to be easy for Labour if they take it easy.
So when it comes to the House, the role of Speaker, how important it is, as we know that it is important, but how do you see it, that in particularly in UK Parliament, and the role of
time
Speaker?
for question answer session? We are just speaking. Yes. I would like more engagement.
We can conclude it in 5 minutes, and then we can open the session.
Because I would like तो उर्दू शुर्दू में कोई भी बात हो सके. Yes, the reason I think the office of the Speaker is very important. Speaker is someone who is usually elected by, in consensus by all the parties. And I mean, he's, usually for 2 terms, can be 3 terms as well. And when he or she fights, the elections, yes, the other parties, do not, put up, candidates against him. And he's, genuinely, custodian of the house. And I think the last speaker gained a lot of, publicity for his very robust advocacy of, parliamentary supremacy. Yes, John Bercow. Where he, even, tried hard to block Boris Johnson efforts to, dissolve the parliament. He was the only person who, stood his way. He also made sure that on, in Brexit, all the voices are heard. And he made sure that, Remainers have their things. So, that didn't make him, very popular, because, Conservative Party once tried to get rid of him, but all the parties rallied around him. Now Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle is a, consensus, in candidate, bit more careful. And he was recently, criticized for, not allowing, vote on, Palestinian issue. This motion was put forward by, Scottish National Party, and he didn't allow a vote. So this was, bit born of contention.
Thank you.
But if you compare it with Pakistan, then I think
there are lessons.
There are lessons to be learned.
So I think that we can conclude it. There are other questions, and obviously the subject is quite vast. I would just at the last you can touch upon because elections were happening everywhere around the Britain as well. So particularly the French election.
Yes.
So just so that then we can open the house.
Yes, 2 similarities. Yes, British election was a snap elections, and after the rise of the far right in French.
And so when we say snap election,
that calling elections before the due date, constitutionally, so you can call early. So yes, after the good performance of the far right in the European election, Macron called also, snap elections. So yes, yes, to a snap election. But French elections, became quite a tricky affair, because in the first round, in far right, emerged with the highest share of vote, and that rang alarm bells between, Republicans and left, and also generally, French public, which is of historically of radical temper. So in the second round, this Macron party and the left, they got together, and yes, in strategic alliance, and left withdrew about 200 candidates. Macron parties withdrew about 100 candidates in favor of the left, but there were still 50, 60, 80 seats where there was a contest. But as a result, left was able to emerge with the largest number of seats and the highest share of vote. Yes, Macron party came second, but the National Rally, which is the far right party, that gained very significant gains, and they ended up with in 140 seats as compared to left's 180 and Macron's party 160. And earlier on, the left, this National Rally far right in the European election, they won 30 seats out of 80 European Parliament seats, which was a huge, and as a result they have been able to form a very significant bloc in the European Parliament. And in the European Parliament, this, far right has about, together 150 to 160 seats in a house of 720. So it poses a, significant threat. Yes.
Thank you very much, Arif Saab, for this very fruitful and good discussion. There are many topics, and yes, we will continue it in next time as well. But now I would like to open the house and questions.
Okay, thank you, Arif, thank you, Sansa. In fact, you have partly, my comment was on, because it was about the French elections, because Chancellor winner takes all, and compared to that, I was about to talk about which you have already said, that the Rassemblement National was top, and then so that completely changed the second round, so I don't want to say more about that. But as far as the transition is concerned, transition in the UK takes an hour, which we believe in France might take a lot longer in the current situation. And I am rather skeptical if, as we discussed it for yesterday, if the left will be able to make a government. Because they may wait, because the president can wait. He can wait. Olympics games are there, and they may change. Things may change within the centrist party, joining hands with the Républicains and others. Who knows? So yes, so that is there. And the third point was about the Queen, and the French president. The problem with the president is that the president, it's his discretion to select the prime minister, and he may, if he wants to choose somebody who does not represent the majority. So that is a big issue there, which is not on the other side of the channel, because Fifth Republic was made. I don't want to go into much. Fifth Republic was made by Charles de Gaulle, and it is the president has all the powers but no responsibilities, whereas the prime minister has all the responsibilities and absolutely no power. So in fact, what I wanted to say, you had already said. So thank you, Arif, thank you. Thank you.
Vacuum, actually, you are talking about as.
I think in Belgium,
Belgium
Belgium
was
was without
years.
Belgium was without more than 2 years without a government,
More than two.
but the country was going on without even a caretaker government. We might have the same technocrat government in France as well. Who knows?
पाकिस्तान में इतने सालों से पावर वैक्यूम में चल रहा
Thank you. What a political story, huh? But can you tell us a little bit about the real shock factor in the UK elections, which is the rise of Nigel Farage and his Reform Party? How do you think will he stir the political pot, and what will it mean for the British politics going forward?
Thank you. Yes, Nigel Farage is very interesting character. He's killjoy, or in spoil sport. But like any far right, in politician, he is also very suave, and he knows which button to press. Actually, he's very close to Conservative Party. Close mean in ideology. Look, Brexit. Brexit was forced upon Conservative Party by Nigel Farage, because he had formed his own party, and a considerable mass of Conservative Party were defecting to his party. So Conservative Party realized that they will have to concede on Europe, and they will have to call referendum. So Nigel Farage forced the hand of Conservative Party, because he's anti-European, far right, anti-immigrant, anti-globalization, hardcore economic nationalists. So that is how his equations with Conservative. Now again, he was watching very carefully what is happening in the Conservative Party. When he felt he was not having his way, and just very far right elements within, like Conservative Party were pushing, Conservative Party to take hard line. He just formed his own party and, I mean, changed the terms of debate. Within 2 to 3 weeks, yeah, though he got 5 seats, but he got, 14% of vote. 14% of his vote, and you add, conservative, 23, 24, their share of vote is, still higher than, Labour. But what he has been able to do over the years, he has been able to push anti-European agenda in British politics, anti-immigrant agenda, anti-globalization, and he has succeeded. All the major parties have adopted his, in policies. So his influence is huge. But, this is for the first time he has, become the member of the House of Commons. Previously, he was, the European Parliament member. And so he just, represents, far right, trend in Europe. But, because, yes, British are, too civilized. So his, far right is of a less, toxic variety than, in Marine Le Pen in, France, or yes, Matteo, in Salvini in Italy, or, Giorgio Meloni or Orban or others. So it is very, but he's extremely significant figures. वो एक किस्म का धरना हर दफा दे देता है 2014 वाला and just changes the terms of debate, the political. That's what his role is. जी और जी 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 जी
थोड़ा सा टेंजेंट्स है मेरा क्वेश्चन कि पाकिस्तान पे इसकी क्या इम्प्लीकेशंस होंगी, क्योंकि पाकिस्तान में भी ख़ास तरह का एक पॉलिटिक्स है, पाकिस्तान के फॉरेन रिलेशंस का भी उसका कोई ताल्लुक है, वो क्या होगा। और मुझे एक बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग लगी आपकी बात सुन के कि जैसे पाकिस्तान में कुछ लोगों का ये ख्याल है कि पाकिस्तान में कभी कोई मजहबी पार्टी इलेक्शन नहीं जीती, लेकिन एक्चुअली उनका इन्फ्लुएंस इतना ज़्यादा है कि आपको कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से लेकर एवरीथिंग इज़ एक्चुअली डिफाइंड बाय देम। सो इसकी नज़ीर जो है वो मिलती है। इस तरीके से भी आई थिंक पॉलिटिक्स को समझने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए, इस तरह आपने इसका इशारा किया। तो पाकिस्तान के मुतल्लिक मेरा क्या, थैंक यू।
Yes, British foreign policy, in relation to Pakistan is quite, consistent. But there is, bit more room, within Labour Party, because, when I was in England, we were able to push quite a, few things on, just democratic, in restoration in the 90s and early 2000. And Labour Party gives you that space. So if you want to lobby or others, there is, bit more space in there for social democracy or, democratic forces. I think broader policy बस ठीक है, मेरा ख्याल है कोई ज़्यादा चेंज मुझे तो नहीं नज़र आती, लेकिन वैसे लेबर पार्टी पे एज अ होल बहुत ज़्यादा प्रेशर होगा फॉरेन पॉलिसी का। तो वो जो 5-6 इंडिपेंडेंट जीते हैं वो उस पे पैलेस्टाइन और गाज़ा पे बहुत ज़्यादा प्रेशर होगा इन पर्टिकुलर कि आप उस पे करें। लेकिन आप अगर देखें कि पहले ही हफ्ते में वो केयर स्टामर उधर चला गया है, उधर यूक्रेन, उसने कहा है हम आर्म्स देंगे और आप बस दबा के रखें। फिर नेटो पे उसने कहा है कि क्योंकि कंजर्वेटिव पार्टी उसको बड़ा पुश कर रही है कि 2.5% आप करें डिफेंस स्पेंडिंग। तो लेबर ने थ्रू आउट ये चीज़ रेजिस्ट की है कि हम 2.5% जीडीपी का डिफेंस पे नहीं कर सकते। अब आप देखें ब्रिटिश प्रेस हर रोज़ ये होती है स्टोरी, और ऋषि सुनैक भी बोल रहा होता है सारे कि बस जी डिफेंस आप उसका करें, यूरोपियन लेवल पे लेके आए 2.5%। تو ایک تو یہ ہوگا, لیکن میرا خیال ہے پش بیک بھی ہوگا تھوڑا ان کا براڈ, مطلب تھوڑی سی اور چینج شاید اس لیے بھی ہو کہ ایتھنک مائنورٹیز اور کچھ 14-15% جو برٹش ایم پیز آف پاکستانی اوریجن, تو شاید اس میں لابینگ کا اسکوپ یا ہاؤس آف کامنز میں پاکستان پہ شاید زیادہ ڈبیٹ ہو. اس کی پاسبلٹی ہے.
شکریہ بہت بہت. یہ بتائیے کہ اب اس الیکشن کے بعد برطانیہ میں ایک تو بحث یہ شروع ہوئی ہے کہ فرسٹ پاس دی پوسٹ سسٹم سے ذرا پروپورشنل ریپرزنٹیشن کی طرف جائیں. ایک تو میں چاہوں گا آپ کی اس کے بارے میں رائے, کیونکہ اگر نائجل فراج کی جو پارٹی ریفارم پارٹی کو 14% ووٹ پڑا ہے, تو اگر یہ سسٹم ہوتا ہے تو ان کی شاید 60+ سیٹیں ہوتی. اور دوسرا یہ کہ جو گین جو ہے لیبر پارٹی کی وہ بہت کم ہے اور ڈفرینس بھی بہت کم ہے. تو یہ جو ارتھمیٹک ہے فرسٹ پاس دی پوسٹ سسٹم, یہاں پر بھی ایسے رہا ہے کہ بعض اوقات جو جیتنے والی پارٹی ہے جس کی سیٹیں زیادہ ہیں اس کا ووٹ کم ہے. شاید آپ کو یاد ہوگا 88 میں غالباً پیپلز پارٹی کو کوئی 7.9 ملین ووٹ ملے تھے یا 7.8 ایسی طرف, لیکن نشستیں 81-82 تھیں. 90 میں اس کا ووٹ بینک بڑھ گیا تھا لیکن سیٹیں آدھی ہو گئی تھی. پھر 93 میں وہی ہو گیا. تو ایک تو یہ میرا خیال ہے کہ بڑا ضروری ہے ہمیں بھی اس کے بارے میں, کیونکہ یہاں بہت سارے لوگوں کی پوزیشن ہے کہ فرسٹ پاس دی پوسٹ سسٹم از ناٹ اے ریپرزینٹیو سسٹم ایٹ آل. تو یو کے میں بھی ایسا ہی ہے, وہ زیادہ فیئر سسٹم ہے پی آر, اور زیادہ تر یورپین کنٹریز میں یہی ہے. اور دوسرا جو ڈائیورس ہاؤس آف کامنز ہے بیکم اے ویری ڈائیورس پلیس. میرے خیال پہلے ایسی بات نہیں تھی, اتنے زیادہ لوگ نہیں تھے. تو اس سے مطلب یہ جو تیسرا میرا سوال یہ ہے کہ اٹ اپیئرز ٹو می کہ جو یورپ کے اندر رائٹ ونگ پارٹیز ہیں وہ اتنی اگریسو امپیریلسٹک نہیں ہیں جتنی سوشل ڈیموکریٹس ہیں. اس کی امپلیکیشن ہمارے لیے کیا ہے؟ مطلب جیسے یوکرین کے ایشو پہ اوپر ساری تقریباً جو رائٹ ونگ فار رائٹ ہے وہ دے آر اگینسٹ یوکرین وار. اور سو امپیریلزم comes from the liberal and the social democrats. So how do you see yourself in that? And we as a political analyst, we should also look at that. Thank you.
بہت شکریہ. آپ کی آبزرویشن بڑی ڈیپ ہیں. سب سے پہلے پی آر سسٹم نا, یہ انگلینڈ میں ڈبیٹ خاصے عرصے سے جاری ہے. اور جب ٹونی بلیئر یہ 1997 میں بنا تھا تو مطلب لبرل ڈیموکریٹس پارٹی انڈر پیڈی ایش ٹاؤن, انہوں نے لیبر کے ساتھ بڑا انگیج کیا کہ آپ یہ مطلب پی آر سسٹم بنائیں. اچھا, ٹونی بلیئر نے ان کو ویسے پلیڈ along اور ان کو ساتھ چلایا, لیکن اس پہ کوئی ایسی بات نہیں ہوئی. لیکن میرا خیال ہے اس الیکشن کے بعد یہ ڈبیٹ بڑی عام ہو گئی ہے. میرے خیال میں کوئی چینج نہیں آئے گی. انگلینڈ والے کوئی مطلب چینج تو ویسے نعرے کے طور حکومت کی چینج ٹھیک ہے, لیکن کانسٹیٹیوشنل جو آپ نے جس طرح بنایا ہوا ہے اس کی چینج اچھی نہیں ہے. وہ اس پہ کوئی ان کا بلیو نہیں ہے. ایون فرینچ ریولوشن جب آ رہا تھا تو ایڈمنڈ برک ٹائپ لوگ وہ بڑے اس کے چینج کے اور ریولوشن کے بڑے خلاف تھے. تو ایک تو میرا خیال ہے کنسرویٹیو ایز اے ہول ان کا ہے ٹینر, کوئی یہ گیم آگے چلنے والی نہیں ہے پی آر کی. لیکن پی آر کا ایک اور جو اچھی چیز ہے جو آپ نے یورپینز اس کا پارٹیز کا بنایا، اس میں پالیسی اسٹیبلٹی بڑی ہوتی ہے، ایک خاص قسم کا پالیسی ایکویلبریم رہتا ہے، کیونکہ ہر ایک پارٹی کو اپنے ووٹ شیئر کا پتہ ہوتا ہے، تو وہ 2-3 پارٹیاں مطلب اکٹھی بھی بنا لیتی ہیں، لیکن ان کو اپنا پتہ ہوتا ہے کہ کس پہ کمپرومائز کرنا ہے، کس پہ فرسٹ پوسٹ کا سسٹم یہ ہے کہ اگلی آنے والی پارٹی بالکل آپ کا ملیہ میٹ کر دے، ہم نہیں کرتے جی، نئی پالیسی بنا. اچھا پاکستان میں یہی ایک حد تک ہوتا ہے، پیچھے کوئی دیکھتا ہی نہیں ہے، جو اچھی باتیں ہیں وہ بھی نہیں، بس ہمیں حکومت مل گئی ہے اور ہم کوئی بڑے پھنے خان ہیں. تو ایک اس کا میرے خیال ہے نقصان یہ بھی ہے کہ پالیسی انسٹیبلٹی. باقی فار رائٹ کے بارے میں ویری انٹرسٹنگ، I will have to think about it, لیکن it is deeper question and it needs more nuanced answer. I will have to think. لیکن ویسے اس پہ جو بات آپ کی ہے کہ ایک تو اس کی وجہ تھوڑی سی نظر آتی ہے کہ چونکہ فار رائٹ نیشنلسٹس ہے اور وہ آؤٹ سائڈ ورلڈ میں انٹرونشنز اور کہ آپ جی سارے پیسے ادھر لگائیں، ہماری وائٹ ورکنگ کلاس کا بڑا مسئلہ ہے اور ادھر ادھر، تو اس لحاظ سے وہ امپیریلزم ایکسٹینڈ کرنے کے حق میں تو نہیں ہے. دس از کوائٹ کلیئر. اور آپ کی یہ دوسری بات بھی بہت ہی امپورٹنٹ ہے، کیونکہ لیبر اور کنسرویٹو کی ایک جو کامن چیز ہے کہ دے ہیو باٹ انٹو امپیریل پروجیکٹ فرام دا ویری بگننگ. یہ مطلب ہے اس پہ جو ان کی امپیریلسٹ ہیں اس پہ وہ ہے ان کا کہ ہم وہ بڑے تھے اور امپائر تھے، نوسٹیلجیا. مطلب لیبر نے کبھی اس قسم کا چیلنج نہیں کیا. یہ لیبر کا کنٹریبیوشن ایک ضرور تھا جب ان کو یہ فیل ہوا کہ ہم امپائر نہیں چلا سکتے، اس کا بڑا خرچہ ہے، تو انہوں نے پھر اس کو ڈسمینٹل کیا اندر ایٹلی نا. لیکن باقی ان کا ہے. اور لیکن یہ جو فار رائٹ اور امپیریلزم کا ہے، میرا خیال ہے دس نیڈس ڈیپر ریفلیکشن بٹ ویری انٹرسٹنگ.
میری نظر میں یہ ہے کہ یہ جو نیشنلزم کی آپ بات کر رہے ہیں، اصل معاملہ امیگریشن کا ہے. کیونکہ امپیریلزم کا مطلب یہ ہے کہ آپ امیگریشن کو اوپر رکھیں،
ٹھیک ہے،
کیونکہ یو ہیو ٹو انٹروین ان ادر کنٹریز افیئرس، تو اس سے بہت ساری ڈسپلیسمنٹ ہوتی ہے. اور وہ ڈسپلیسمنٹ پھر جاتی کہاں ہے؟ When I went to England in 1981 because I was wanted here, تو I was asked by Home Office بھی تم یہاں کیوں آئے ہو؟ تو I told them because you ruled us.
exactly.
So this is my second home. تو میرا اپنا خیال ہے کہ this ultimately leads to anti-immigration. کہ اس کو اگر روکنا ہے تو یہ ہمیں باہر کی جنگیں ختم کرنی پڑیں گی. مطلب ٹرمپ بھی اینٹی یوکرین وار ہے، ہی از ایکسٹریملی رائٹ ونگ. کیونکہ یہ جو رائٹ ہے اس وقت فار رائٹ ہے، اٹس ناٹ ان لائک اولڈ رائٹ یا ٹوریز.
ٹھیک ہے، ٹھیک ہے،
ٹوریز ور ویری امپیریلسٹک.
بالکل.
تو اب میرا اپنا خیال ہے کہ ان کا یہ ہے کہ اگر ہم نے یہاں رکھنا ہے تو یہ دوسرا انٹیگریشن زیادہ کرنے کی ضرورت ہے. جو ہیں جیسے ابھی 15 پاکستانی ہیں، 20 انڈینز ہیں
زیادہ،
اور کوئی 6-7 بلیک ہیں، تو اٹس اے کوائٹ گڈ نمبر. تو ہاؤ دے ول آلسو ریئیکٹ ٹو ایمرجنگ سچویشن. تو آئی تھنک اٹ ول بی ویری انٹرسٹنگ.
ٹھیک ہے، بالکل. مجھے یہ اتفاق ہے کہ وہ آپ وہ بالکل ٹھیک ہے، اینٹی امیگریشن والا مسئلہ ہے. اور یہ ویسے لیفٹ کا بھی نعرہ وہی ہے، وی آر ہیئر بیکاز یو ور دیئر. وہاں جو پرو مائیگریشن کے گروپس ہیں نا لیفٹ کے، تو وہ تو ایسے ہی کہتے ہیں. اور اب بھی جب وہاں انگلینڈ میں ڈبیٹ شروع ہوتی ہے کہ بہت زیادہ لوگ آ رہے ہیں تو وہ اکثر کہتے ہیں کہ یس اف یو ڈونٹ وانٹ اس ٹو کم ہیئر ڈونٹ بوم اس. اور آئی مین تیسری اس میں بات یہ ہے کہ اچھا وہ اچھا ویسے فار رائٹ اینٹی گلوبلائزیشن بھی ہے اور اس کی یہی وجہ ہے کہ یس گلوبلائزیشن میں مائیگرینٹس آ جاتے ہیں اوپن بارڈرز. اور اب وہ ان کا مسئلہ ہے کہ بس ان کو روکو. اور ایون بوٹس بھی انگلینڈ میں جو آ رہی ہیں وہ کوئی زیادہ نمبرز نہیں ہیں لیکن اس کے آپٹکس بہت زیادہ ہیں. اچھا میں اس لیے کہہ رہا ہوں کہ لیبر کی امیگریشن پالیسی چینج نہیں ہوگی کیونکہ نائجل فراج ادھر بیٹھا ہے, اس نے روز ان کو پکڑ لینا ہے. اچھا کنسرویٹو پارٹی بیٹھی ہے تو یہ جو امید ہوتی ہے نا لیبر سے کہ, اور وہاں بہت سے لوگوں کی امید ہے کہ جی مطلب امیگریشن لاز چینج ہوگی, مطلب مجھے نہیں لگتا کیونکہ وہ بہت ڈرے ہوئے ہیں اس پہ. اور جرمی کوربن کے خلاف ایک چارج یہ تھا کہ یہ مطلب امیگریشن کے حق میں ہے, یہ کیوں نہیں کہتا کہ بارڈر کنٹرول کرو. ہاں یس پیلسٹائن کے حق میں. تو اگر وہ کہے کہ بارڈر کنٹرول کرنا ہے لوگ آئیں تو ہم اس کے ساتھ ٹھیک ہو جائیں گے. تو بٹ جیسے تھینک یو ویری مچ فار دس کوشچن, اٹ ہیز میڈ می تھنک. اور یہ آئی تھنک ویری امپورٹنٹ کوشچن. تھینک یو.
Thank you, Arif Saab. And if there is
یار
any
کوئی اور
question,
کوشچن؟
then
یس ینگ مین یو
and
اون جی.
I think all questions have been answered.
ویسے
So,
ویزے دا بھی پوچھ لو. میں آپ
when
کو
you
بتا
when you will become MP, then I think from there. So, if there are no any question, if there is any question on the Facebook or something like that, nothing. Thank you, and thank you for the audience and participants, their patience listening to the topic, which was not very closely related to us, but still, I think there are a lot of things which we have learned from the Arif Saab, the beautiful discussion and these explorations and particularly implications for us.
تھینک یو ویری مچ جی. آپ سب لوگ آئے, بہت شکریہ. باری صاحب, آفتاب صاحب سر, اور یہ سب زبیر صاحب, اشفاق صاحب, اظہر صاحب, اور یس ابرار صاحب, تھینک یو ویری مچ. اور آئی مین جن کے نام مجھے نہیں آتے وہ بھی جناب بہت شکریہ. اور آئی مین خاص کر ینگ لوگوں کا, لیکن آپ نے سوال کوئی پوچھا ہی نہیں. اگلی دفعہ ویزے دا کرنا, پھر آڈینس آئے گی برٹش ویزا.